Every new year, we tell ourselves this will be the one. This is the year we'll change, grow, and finally become who we're meant to be. But here's the hard truth. Most people will wake up on December 31st, 2025, exactly where they are today, stuck. Why? Because they ignore the brutal truths that make real change possible. Today, I'll share 10 life-altering truths rooted in Stoicism that will push you out of your comfort zone and into a life of purpose and fulfillment. If you're ready to face reality, this video is your wake-up call. Let's dive in. Number 1, your time is running out. Every day you delay pursuing your goals is a day you'll never get back. Time is your most valuable resource, yet many waste it on trivial things like binge-watching shows or scrolling social media. For example, Steve Jobs once said, "If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today?" His relentless focus on meaningful work allowed him to revolutionize technology despite his limited time. Number 2, no one is coming to save you. The Stoics emphasize self-reliance and taking full responsibility for one's life. Epictetus taught, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This philosophy reminds us that external help, whether from people, circumstances, or fate, cannot determine our success. Instead, we must take charge of our actions, decisions, and mindset. Waiting for someone to rescue you only delays your progress. You already possess the tools to improve your situation. It's up to you to use them. For example, consider Viktor Frankl, the Austrian neurologist and Holocaust survivor whose life story embodies this truth. During his time in Nazi concentration camps, Frankl realized that no one could save him, not the guards, his fellow prisoners, or fate. He could only survive by taking control of his inner world. Frankl chose to focus on his attitude, finding meaning in suffering, and clinging to the belief that life, even in the harshest conditions, has purpose. This approach aligns perfectly with Stoicism. Frankl's ability to save himself from despair led him to write Man's Search for Meaning, a book that has inspired millions. It was his choice, not external forces, that allowed him to transcend unimaginable circumstances. Number 3, comfort is your biggest enemy. The Stoics believed that excessive comfort and ease weaken the mind and body. Seneca, a Roman Stoic philosopher, said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Comfort, while tempting, often leads to complacency, leaving you unprepared to face challenges. Stoicism teaches us to embrace voluntary discomfort, whether through fasting, physical challenges, or simplifying life, as a way to strengthen our resilience and appreciate what we have. For example, Theodore Roosevelt, though not a Stoic by label, lived a life aligned with this principle. Born a sickly child with severe asthma, he could have stayed in the comfort of his home, avoiding physical strain. Instead, Roosevelt chose to embrace discomfort by committing to rigorous exercise, hiking, and boxing, transforming himself into a robust and energetic individual. This discipline shaped his leadership and adventurous spirit. Similarly, the modern practice of cold showers or fasting aligns with the Stoic tradition of stepping out of comfort. By intentionally embracing discomfort, you develop the mental toughness to handle life's adversities. Whether they are physical challenges or emotional hardships, Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reflected on the importance of preparing for hardship daily. He wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, 'Today I shall be met with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness.'" This mindset primes us to face discomfort and not be caught off guard by challenges. Number 4, your excuses are lies. The Stoics believe that excuses are self-imposed barriers that prevent us from achieving our full potential. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Excuses are often rooted in fear, procrastination, or laziness, and they serve as comforting lies to justify inaction. Stoicism teaches us to confront reality and take ownership of our actions, or lack thereof, because true growth comes from accountability and effort, not excuses. Consider Jocko Willink, a former Navy SEAL and advocate of Stoic-like discipline. Jocko teaches that excuses are a form of self-deception. For example, if you say, "I don't have time to work out," it's likely untrue, there's time. but you're choosing to prioritize other things. His motto, discipline equals freedom, mirrors Stoic principles. Stop making excuses and start taking action. Marcus Aurelius himself. As a Roman emperor, he faced wars, plagues, and political turmoil. He could have made excuses to avoid his duties, blaming illness, stress, or the enormity of his role. Instead, he viewed challenges as opportunities to act with virtue. In Meditations, he reminded himself, do not waste the time you have left. Even in his most stressful moments, he rejected excuses, knowing they would only hinder progress. Imagine you're putting off pursuing a new skill, coding for example, claiming you're too busy. Yet if you tracked your time, you'd likely find hours spent scrolling social media or binge-watching TV. By dropping the excuse and dedicating even 30 minutes a day to learning, you could drastically improve your life over time. Number 5, you can't have it all. The Stoics taught that life is full of trade-offs, and pursuing everything often means achieving nothing meaningful. Seneca said, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. This principle emphasizes that time, energy, and focus are finite resources. Chasing too many desires, whether wealth, fame, relationships, or personal goals, can spread you too thin, leaving you unfulfilled. The Stoics urged us to prioritize what truly matters, letting go of distractions and superficial ambitions. For example, take Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful rulers of the ancient world. Despite his status, Marcus did not seek to have it all. He could have indulged in luxury, wealth, and endless pleasures, but he chose to focus on his duties as emperor and his personal growth as a philosopher. His writings and meditations reflect a deep understanding that life is about making sacrifices to serve a higher purpose. He wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less." Marcus understood that he couldn't excel as a ruler, philosopher, and indulgent hedonist all at once. He chose a path aligned with virtue and service, sacrificing fleeting pleasures for meaningful contributions to the empire in Stoic philosophy. Imagine someone who tries to balance a demanding corporate job, start a side business, maintain a social life, and pursue hobbies all at the same time. The result? Burnout, shallow relationships, and subpar results in every area. A Stoic approach would encourage them to assess their priorities and let go of pursuits that don't align with their core values. By focusing on fewer goals, they can achieve excellence in what truly matters. Number 6, the world doesn't owe you anything. The Stoics believe that entitlement is a mental trap that leads to frustration and disappointment. Life is inherently indifferent. It doesn't operate based on fairness or what we think we deserve. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Stoicism teaches us to focus on our actions and efforts rather than expecting the world to reward us or cater to our desires. Real-life example, Stoicism in action. Consider Nelson Mandela, who was unjustly imprisoned for 27 years during apartheid in South Africa. Mandela could have believed he was owed justice, freedom, or acknowledgement for his sacrifices. However, he didn't dwell on entitlement or resentment. Instead, Mandela adopted a Stoic-like mindset, using his time in prison to reflect, plan, and grow as a leader. Upon his release, he chose to focus on actionable change rather than bitterness, eventually becoming a global symbol of resilience and justice. His approach aligns with Stoicism. Rather than expecting the world to fix itself or lamenting the unfairness of life, he took responsibility for what he could control: his mindset and actions. Imagine a recent college graduate frustrated because they can't immediately land their dream job. They might feel that their degree or hard work in school means they're owed a high-paying position. A Stoic approach would shift the mindset from entitlement to effort. No one owes them a job, but they can control how they improve their skills, network, and persist in their search. Number 7, you are replaceable. The Stoics remind us that nothing in life is permanent and no one is irreplaceable. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, frequently reflected on the fleeting nature of life and our roles in it. He wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity. However, even the greatest individuals eventually fade away, and the world moves on." Embracing this idea can free us from the fear of insignificance or pride in our unique importance. It teaches us humility, the importance of contributing meaningfully in the present, and accepting that our role in the world is temporary. For example, Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, was undeniably influential in the tech world. However, when Jobs passed away in 2011, Apple continued to thrive without him. This exemplifies the truth that even visionary leaders are replaceable. While Jobs made remarkable contributions to technology and design, Apple's success continued because the company adapted and others stepped into leadership roles. Jobs himself, in many of his speeches, acknowledged the cyclical nature of life and work. In one famous address at Stanford University, he spoke about the inevitability of death, saying, "Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work." But he also knew that the world would move on once he was gone. In a more everyday sense, consider a valued employee who leaves a company after many years. At first, there may be a sense of loss or uncertainty, but the company adapts, finds a replacement, and keeps moving forward. The Stoic lesson here is that while our contributions matter, we are all replaceable. This understanding can help relieve the pressure of trying to hold on to something forever and encourage us to focus on making our efforts meaningful while we can. Number 8, fear of failure holds you back more than failure itself. The Stoics believe that fear, especially the fear of failure, is one of the greatest obstacles to achieving greatness. Epictetus taught that it is not external events that disturb us, but our judgment of them. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Fear of failure often prevents us from even attempting meaningful endeavors. In Stoic philosophy, failure is not something to be feared. Rather, it is an opportunity for growth, learning, and self-improvement. By reframing failure as a necessary part of the process, we can reduce the fear and take bold action. For example, Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, is a powerful example of Stoicism applied to failure. Edison famously failed thousands of times before successfully inventing the light bulb. In fact, he considered each failure to be a step closer to success, saying, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." His ability to embrace failure without being paralyzed by fear allowed him to keep moving forward and eventually achieve great success. This mindset reflects Stoic thinking, where failure is seen not as a final defeat, but as part of the natural process of growth. Edison's willingness to fail, without the paralyzing fear of failure, ultimately led to one of the most impactful inventions in history. Consider someone starting a new business. The fear of failure might prevent them from even launching their product or service. They may worry about losing money, facing criticism, or not succeeding in the way they envision. This fear can paralyze them, causing inaction. However, if they embrace failure as a learning opportunity and keep moving forward, accepting that failure is a part of growth, they will be much more likely to succeed in the long run. Many successful entrepreneurs like Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, faced numerous rejections and failures before they found success. Blakely often speaks about how her father encouraged her to fail and learn from it, helping her break free from the fear that can hold others back. Number 9, you are not your emotions. The Stoics believe that emotions, while natural, are not an inherent part of our true selves. Emotions like anger, fear, and anxiety arise from our judgments and perceptions about external events. Epictetus, a key Stoic philosopher, taught, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." In other words, our emotions are a response to our beliefs and interpretations, not who we truly are. Stoicism encourages us to detach our sense of identity from our emotional states and to view emotions objectively, allowing us to respond to them in a measured, rational way rather than being driven by them. For example, Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, provides a powerful example of Stoicism applied to emotions. Frankl endured unimaginable suffering in concentration camps, yet he maintained the belief that while he could not control his external circumstances, he could control his reaction to them. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Despite the emotional trauma of his circumstances, Frankl refused to let his emotions define him or determine his actions. He understood that his emotions were separate from his identity, and he chose to focus on finding meaning in his suffering rather than succumbing to despair. In a workplace setting, imagine someone who faces constant criticism from their boss. The natural emotional response might be frustration, resentment, or even anger. However, a stoic approach would be to recognize that those emotions are simply responses to the external situation, not reflections of their true self. Instead of being consumed by anger or allowing it to dictate their actions, they could choose to detach from the emotion, assess the feedback rationally, and respond constructively. This emotional detachment can lead to more effective problem-solving and personal growth, as well as reduce stress and frustration. Number 10. Nobody cares as much as you think they do. The Stoics understood that much of our emotional suffering comes from the belief that others are constantly observing and judging us. However, the truth is that most people are more focused on their own lives and concerns than we realize. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks." In essence, we often overestimate the amount of attention others give to our actions, and as a result, we allow ourselves to become consumed by worries about what others think. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own actions and thoughts, rather than becoming preoccupied with the perceptions of others. For example, a great example of this Stoic principle can be found in the life of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. During his presidency, Lincoln faced intense criticism from the press, politicians, and the public. Yet he remained focused on his work and the greater good, knowing that his personal reputation was not as important as the nation's future. He once said, "I am not bound to win, but I am bound to be true. I am not bound to succeed, but I am bound to live up to what light I have." Lincoln understood that others' judgments were fleeting, and he chose to focus on his own values and goals, rather than being bogged down by public opinion. Consider a young person getting ready to give a presentation at work or school. They might be anxious about how they will be perceived, fearing judgment or criticism from colleagues or classmates. However, the reality is that most people are focused on their own concerns, and they are not paying nearly as much attention as the presenter fears. This fear of judgment can paralyze them and prevent them from performing to the best of their ability. A Stoic mindset encourages the person to focus on the quality of their work rather than the imagined judgments of others. They can recognize that most people's attention is divided, and what matters most is staying true to themselves and doing their best. 1 year, it might feel like just another fleeting moment, but it holds the potential to reshape your entire life. A single year can be enough to transform your mindset, your actions, and your future. The question is, will you allow these brutal truths to guide you in 2025? Or will you let yet another year slip by, unchanged? The choice is in your hands. You have the power to embrace these lessons and take bold action toward the life you've always wanted. But transformation requires commitment, focus, and the courage to face hard truths head-on. If you're ready to take that next step, if you're truly prepared to break free from the old patterns that have held you back, then I invite you to check out our video on the daily Stoic rituals that will change your life forever. These rituals have the potential to anchor your daily routine in purpose, resilience, and inner peace. The journey starts now. You've got this. Let's make 2025 the year that you finally unlock the life you deserve. See you in the next video, and let's get started.